Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I am about to say right now, that quiet voice in the back of your mind telling you that you have been forgotten. Silence it. What I am about to tell you is going to change how you see everything that has happened to you in this season. The enemy is working overtime today for one reason and one reason only. He knows what God is about to do in your life, and he is terrified of the moment you find out too. It all ends here. The invisibility, the waiting, the feeling that everyone else is being promoted while you are being passed over. But this is the part you need to hear clearly. It is not ending because of luck. It is ending because of what you have endured and what you have refused to let go of, even when every reason to hold on seemed to disappear. Think back to that moment this week when someone overlooked you again. Maybe it was at work, maybe it was in a relationship, maybe it was in a room where your name should have been mentioned and it was not. You felt it, that familiar sting, and for a moment you started to wonder if maybe they were right, if maybe you were not as significant as you thought. You did not know it then, but that moment of being overlooked was the final entry in a legal record being built in the courts of heaven. Every time they passed you over, they were signing a document they did not know they were signing. You did not ruin your destiny. You were completing the evidence. God did not allow you to be pushed to the background so you could stay there. He allowed it so that when he brings you forward, nobody, not one person who doubted you, will be able to take credit for it. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment that was written before you were born, scheduled for this exact moment in your story, when you needed a verdict more than you needed a motivational speech. Stay with me until the very last second of this message. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the divine decree that confirms what God has been building in secret. I am going to walk you through the audit of your silence, your faithfulness, and your restraint, so you can see exactly where you were winning battles you thought you were losing. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this season of invisibility shut permanently. Do not click away. Your future self is standing on the other side of this message, and if you leave before the verdict is read, you may walk back into the same story God is trying to close. I know what this season has felt like. Not just difficult, erased, like you have been doing everything right and still watching everything go to people who seem to be doing everything wrong. Maybe you were up late this week, scrolling through someone else's highlight reel, feeling a grief you could not fully explain. Not jealousy, something deeper. A quiet mourning for the version of yourself you were supposed to be by now. Or maybe you were sitting in silence after a conversation that ended with you being dismissed again, and you asked God, not for the first time, whether he actually sees you. You feel like a person standing at the back of a crowd, watching the front receive everything you were supposed to have. And in that place, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that the reason you are still waiting is because God has quietly moved on from you. That the promise was real once, but something you did, something you said, some door you closed, some season you did not navigate correctly disqualified you from receiving it. He is replaying the moments where you were not perfect, the times you reacted when you should have been still, the prayers you stopped praying because the silence felt like rejection. He is using every one of those moments as evidence that you have been written out of your own story. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Isaiah 49:15 and 16 declares, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Listen to that promise. Engraved. Not written in pencil where it can be erased. Not written in ink that fades with time. Engraved into the hands of God. Your name, your face, your story permanently carved into him. The enemy has been building a case that you are forgotten, but heaven's record shows that you were never invisible. You were being preserved. You are not in a season of abandonment, you are in a season of preparation. The silence you have been living in is not the silence of a God who forgot. It is the silence of a craftsman in the final hours before the unveiling. It is the held breath before the announcement. It is the last moment of dark before the most dramatic sunrise of your life. What they called your delay, God calls his setup. What they called your irrelevance, heaven calls your positioning. And what you called your loneliest season is about to become the testimony that shocks every single person who thought they had seen the last of you. You were not forgotten. You were being finished. Most chosen ones who hear a message like this feel the fire for about 48 hours. Then the dryness returns, the doubt creeps back, the silence gets louder, and within a week, they are exactly where they were before, waiting, wondering, spiritually exhausted. That cycle breaks today, or it does not. The inner sanctum puts a prophetic word from the throne room in your hands every single morning, 365 days of hearing God before the world can speak first. The link is in the first pinned comment. It will not be there forever, and neither will this window God just opened for you. The world didn't forget you, it just couldn't see you yet. And before we go any further, I need to put something in your hands. Everything we're about to walk through together, the spiritual principles, the breakthroughs, the hidden patterns, it's all been compiled into a guide called The Chosen One's Awakening. It's the companion to this message, and you can grab it right now through the link in the description. Don't wait until the end. Get it now, and let it work alongside what you're about to receive. Now let's go deeper. There's a reason you've been carrying a silence that most people around you don't understand. Not a silence from God, but a silence about you. A strange quiet around your name, around your gifts, around the thing you know you're called to do. It's like you walk into rooms and you can feel it. You're present, you're capable, you're faithful, you're ready to serve. And yet somehow, the spotlight keeps drifting past you as if you're standing behind glass. People speak over others, celebrate others, announce others, and you're still there, still consistent, still showing up, still praying, still building, and the silence has been loud enough to make you question your own memory of the promise. Because silence has a way of making you replay conversations, replay prophecies, replay moments where you felt heaven touch your life, and ask yourself, was that real? Did I misunderstand? Did I imagine it? Did I do something wrong and not realize it? A silence that made you question whether you were overlooked, whether you missed your moment, whether the promises spoken over your life were somehow revoked without your knowledge. And it's not even always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. A meeting that goes on without your input, a promotion that goes to someone else, an opportunity that never returns your email, an invitation that never comes, a season where you're always the helper, but never the one helped, and you try to stay humble. You try to tell yourself, it's okay, God sees. But late at night, when it's just you and your thoughts, the ache rises anyway. You've watched people move forward who didn't seem ready. You've seen doors open for individuals who didn't carry what you carry. And somewhere in the middle of all of that waiting, a thought crept in quiet enough to seem reasonable that maybe you were simply forgotten. Not forgotten in a dramatic, hateful way, but forgotten like a file that got set on the wrong shelf. Forgotten like an unread message that got buried under newer notifications. Forgotten like a seed in soil no one watered. And that's what makes it dangerous, because it doesn't always feel like a lie. It feels like an interpretation. It feels like you're just being realistic. But here's what you need to understand before anything else can shift. Forgetting and preparation are not the same thing. They feel identical from the inside. They both involve silence. They both involve waiting. They both produce a kind of isolation that can feel like abandonment. But one is absence, and the other is architecture. One is emptiness. The other is construction. One is being left behind, The other is being set apart. God doesn't forget. God builds. He is not a man that he should lie, and he is not careless with his words. Scripture says, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Completion means there may be a stage where it looks incomplete. It means there will be scaffolding. It means there will be hidden beams inside the walls. It means there will be seasons where it looks like nothing is happening because the work is happening where the eye can't measure it. And what he's been building in you during this silence has dimensions that even you haven't fully seen yet, because the calling on your life isn't just a moment. It's a weight, and weight requires structure. A building that is meant to rise high needs a foundation that goes deep. If God rushed you into visibility without depth, the same light that would have celebrated you would have exposed you, and the same platform you asked for would have crushed you. So, he builds in the dark. He builds in the quiet. He builds in the unseen places. He builds in you first, so that when the world finally sees you, you don't collapse under what you prayed for. Think about Joseph. Not the part of his story that gets celebrated, the coat, the throne, the reconciliation. Think about the in-between, the part where his story looks like a contradiction, the part where the dream feels almost cruel because everything happening seems to move in the opposite direction. The pit was silent. Imagine that kind of silence. Thrown into a hole by your own blood, the sky shrinking above you, the sound of laughter from people who should have protected you, and the chilling realization that what you carry cannot be explained to people committed to misunderstanding you. The prison was silent. Not just quiet, but unjustly quiet. The kind of quiet where your prayers echo back at you, where your integrity is punished, where your faith has to become more than a feeling, because feelings can't survive iron bars. There were years where nothing externally confirmed what had been spoken over him in a dream, years where no one checked on him, years where the promise looked like a myth, years where his life could have been summarized as, maybe God changed his mind. But during that silence, something was being structured inside him that no accelerated path could have produced. Wisdom that can only come from betrayal, because betrayal teaches you the difference between people who clap for your gift and people who can carry your destiny with clean hands. Discernment that can only come from injustice, because injustice trains your spirit to see beyond appearances, to read motives, to recognize systems, to interpret patterns, to know when someone's smile is a mask and when favor is genuine. Authority that can only come from enduring something you didn't deserve and choosing not to be destroyed by it, not becoming bitter, not becoming cynical, not becoming cruel. Joseph could have turned his pain into a personality. He could have made revenge his religion. But the silence shaped him into a steward. It shaped him into someone who could hold power without needing power to prove anything. The silence wasn't the absence of God's movement. The silence was the sound of God working below the surface, like roots growing, like a seed splitting open, like oil being pressed out of the olive, like gold staying in the fire until everything that isn't gold burns away. And if you're honest, that's what's been happening to you. The world has been measuring your life by what's visible, but heaven has been measuring your life by what's becoming stable. Heaven has been measuring your life by what can last. But here's where it goes deeper, and this is where most people lose their footing. The silence wasn't the only thing being used. The people who overlooked you were being used too. And I know that's hard to hear because some of those moments hurt in ways you can't even fully explain. There's a particular pain in being misjudged by people who had access to your heart. There's a particular sting in being passed over by people who benefited from your loyalty. There's a wound that forms when you show up consistently and still become invisible to the very people who claim to value character. Every person who counted you out, every door that closed in your face, every moment where someone chose someone else, none of that was a mistake. It was a mechanism. Not because God enjoys your pain, not because heaven needed you humiliated, but because certain spiritual muscles only develop under resistance, and because the chosen ones aren't revealed to the world through applause. They're revealed through contrast. Light is seen because of darkness. A diamond is recognized because of the rough surrounding it. A voice is distinguished because of the noise it rises above. And the contrast is being built right now through every person who couldn't recognize what you carry. It's like God is letting the world mislabel you so that when He reveals you, no one can claim they predicted it. No one can pretend they always supported it, and no one can take credit for it. When your moment comes, and it is coming, the same people who passed over you will be the proof of the magnitude of what God placed in you. Their previous blindness will testify to the fact that what's on you is not human, because if it was human, they would have seen it. If it was ordinary, they would have applauded it early. But because it's God-breathed, it bypassed their categories. You don't need an apology from them. Their witness will be enough. The shift will speak for itself. The elevation will answer questions you no longer need to argue. The fruit will silence every old narrative. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely. There's a war being waged not against your body, not against your finances, not even against your relationships, but against your perception. Against the way you interpret your life, against the way you translate time, against the way you read the silence. Because if the enemy can distort your perception, he can distort your decisions. And decisions shape destinies. The enemy of your purpose doesn't need to stop your destiny. He only needs to make you stop believing in it. Because the moment you stop believing, you start compromising, you start settling, you start making peace with lesser versions of your future. You start calling your surrender maturity when it's actually fear. And the most effective weapon in that arsenal is not catastrophe. It's not always some dramatic collapse. Sometimes the enemy doesn't roar like a lion. Sometimes he whispers like a clock. It's delay. Delay that looks like nothing is happening. Delay that makes you start to reinterpret what God said. Delay that makes you start editing the promise to match your current evidence. Delay that slowly replaces faith with a more sophisticated, more socially acceptable word logic. And logic, when it's operating outside of divine timing, will talk you out of your miracle every single time. Logic will tell you, it's been too long. Logic will tell you, you missed it. Logic will tell you, people like you don't get that. Logic will tell you, maybe you should just be grateful for what you have and stop expecting more. But faith says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith doesn't deny reality. It refuses to bow to reality as final. Faith doesn't pretend the waiting doesn't hurt. It insists the waiting is not meaningless. Faith keeps the lamp lit, even when the dawn is taking its time. What's coming next is the part that breaks the cycle for most people, so stay with me. Because once you understand that delay is a weapon aimed at your perception, you have to confront the question that nobody wants to sit with honestly. What have you allowed the delay to change in you? Not in your circumstances, in you. Because delay doesn't only test patience, it tests identity. It tests whether you will remain who God called you to be when you're not being rewarded for it. It tests whether you will keep your heart soft when life keeps giving you reasons to harden. It tests whether you will keep your standards holy when compromise seems like the fastest route to relief. Have you started shrinking your ask? Have you started scaling back the vision to something more manageable, more realistic, more socially approved? Have you started talking yourself down in prayer? Have you started asking God for less because you don't want to be disappointed again? Have you started moving toward what seems available instead of remaining positioned for what was promised? There's a difference between being flexible and being faithless. There's a difference between wisdom and retreat. and the enemy loves when you confuse the two. This is the fork in the road that most chosen ones face in secret. Nobody sees this moment. It happens in the private hours, in the quiet negotiations you have with yourself about what's still possible. It happens when you're tired of being the only one who still believes. It happens when you scroll and watch everyone else's highlight reel while your life feels like a holding pattern. It happens when you start thinking, maybe I should just take what I can get. Maybe the dream was too big. Maybe my calling is smaller than I thought. And the enemy knows that if he can get you to downsize the vision, he doesn't need to fight the destiny because you've already handed it over. He doesn't have to close the door if he can convince you to stop knocking. He doesn't have to steal the promise if he can persuade you to trade it. Think about what happened with the Israelites at the edge of the promised land. The land was real. The promise was real. The power backing them was real. They had evidence behind them. Seas split, manna fell, water came from rocks, pillars of cloud and fire guided them. If anyone had a reason to trust timing, it was them. But 10 of the 12 spies came back with a reduced vision. They didn't deny the land's fruit. They admitted it was good. They just couldn't see themselves inside it. That's what fear does. It doesn't always deny the promise exists. It denies you belong in it. They saw themselves as grasshoppers. And here's the devastation of that moment. They didn't just see themselves that way. They assumed the giants saw them that way too. Their diminished self-perception became the lens through which they interpreted everyone else's view of them. And that reduced perception cost an entire generation their inheritance. Not because God withdrew the land, but because they withdrew themselves from the belief that they were made to take it. Their legs could have walked in, but their minds stayed in slavery. Their bodies were free, but their identity was still captive. And that's the danger. You can be right at the edge of your promise and still talk yourself back into the wilderness because you cannot imagine yourself living what God said. And now this is where we have to go somewhere most people aren't ready to go, because there's a hidden pattern beneath all of this that needs to be named. You've been told that your greatest enemy is doubt, but doubt is not the root. Doubt is the fruit of something deeper. Doubt is what grows when a deeper agreement has already been planted. The real root, the thing that actually keeps chosen ones from stepping into what was prepared for them, is an unexamined agreement with unworthiness. And this is where the enemy becomes sophisticated, because he doesn't always tempt you with obvious darkness. Sometimes he tempts you with a distorted version of good. It's subtle, it's spiritual, and it's wearing the disguise of humility. It sounds like, I just don't want to get ahead of God. It sounds like, I'm still being refined. It sounds like, I don't want to be prideful. It sounds like, who am I to think I could do that? It sounds like reasonable caution. But if you pull the thread all the way back, what you find is a belief that's never been brought into the light. The belief that you are fundamentally too broken, too complicated, too much of something, or not enough of something else to be the one God actually chooses for this. And that agreement hides behind spiritual language so it can stay unchallenged. It says, I'll step forward when I'm perfect. It says, I'll obey when I'm certain. It says, I'll speak when I can guarantee I won't be rejected. But calling was never built on guarantees. It was built on God's character. And that agreement, that quiet, unconfessed belief, is not humility. It is the enemy's most sophisticated infiltration, because it uses the language of surrender to produce the result of paralysis. It uses the tone of reverence to keep you from rising. It keeps you constantly, almost ready, constantly about to, constantly waiting on one more sign, while the whole time heaven is waiting on you to agree with what God already decided about. 9. Because the truth is, unworthiness is not something you overcome by achieving more. Unworthiness is something you renounce by believing what the cross already settled. There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation says, you can't. Grace says, watch what God does with willing hands. Now once that clicks, everything shifts. Because you stop waiting for more confidence and start recognizing that confidence was never the requirement. The requirement was trust. Trust that the one who called you sees past every version of yourself that you're ashamed of. Trust that God is not shocked by your humanity. Trust that he knew the full story when he wrote your name into his plan. Trust that the qualifications for this were set before you had the chance to disqualify yourself. Moses had a stutter, and God still made him a voice to Pharaoh. And even when Moses tried to argue, God didn't erase the assignment. He provided help and still kept the call intact. Rahab had a history, and God still hid destiny inside her house and braided her into the lineage of Jesus. Gideon was hiding, and the angel still called him mighty man of valor while he was trembling in fear, because heaven names you by what you are becoming, not by what you are currently afraid of. Mary was unknown, and yet the angel's announcement didn't consult public opinion. David was overlooked in the field, forgotten even by his father in the lineup, and yet the oil found him anyway. The pattern of heaven is not to call the prepared, it is to prepare the called. And the preparation is not about removing your flaws. It is about stripping away every false identity you've been carrying in their place. Because sometimes the greatest barrier isn't your weakness. It's the costume you've built to hide it. The persona you created to survive rejection. The mask you formed to be tolerated. God isn't just polishing you, he's freeing you. He's removing the versions of you that were shaped by trauma, by abandonment, by comparison, by betrayal. He's teaching you to stand as yourself without begging to be chosen by people who cannot recognize heaven's mark. Stay with me, because what's coming next is the part that will likely reframe everything you thought this season was about. You have been in what feels like a wilderness, a place where landmarks are scarce, a place where you can't navigate by the usual signs of progress, a place where the scenery looks the same day after day, and your mind starts to wonder if you're walking in circles. But a wilderness in divine purpose is never a place of punishment. It is a place of subtraction. It is where God teaches you the difference between survival and sonship. It is where he trains you to drink from the rock instead of chasing broken cisterns. It is where he shows you that manna is enough for a day, and anxiety cannot add a single hour to your life. God is not adding to you right now as much as he is removing from you. And what he is removing is not weakness. What he is removing is everything that would corrupt the gift once it's activated. The pride that hasn't been processed, the pride that would make you build monuments to yourself instead of altars to God. The need for validation that would make you dependent on applause instead of anchored in calling. The fear of man that would make you edit truth to keep relationships. The bitterness that would cause you to wield your power as revenge instead of as restoration. The savior complex that would make you rescue people God never assigned you to carry. The hidden craving to be seen that would turn ministry into performance and purpose into popularity. The wilderness is not where chosen ones go to wait. It is where chosen ones go to be emptied of every substance that would poison the vessel once the fullness arrives. It's where God detoxes your spirit. It's where he teaches you to obey without an audience. It's where he teaches you to worship without a reward. It's where he teaches you to keep your character when no one is clapping, because public fruit is sustained by private roots. And hear this clearly, what feels like nothing to others is often God doing the most. A seed underground looks like inactivity, but it's actually the beginning of a forest. And this is the part no one expects. The thing that has felt like your greatest setback, the loss, the rejection, the season where everything fell apart that was not an interruption to your story. That was the chapter without which the rest of the story has no credibility. Because the world doesn't need another success story. The world needs a resurrection story. The world is full of people who know how to smile through achievement. But they are starving to see someone rise with God after devastation, and resurrection requires that something actually died. Something had to be laid down. Something had to be buried. Something had to end. Maybe it was the relationship you thought would last forever. Maybe it was the career path that made sense on paper. Maybe it was the version of you that was built on approval. Maybe it was the dream as you originally imagined it, because God is going to fulfill it, but not through the route you tried to control. Pain has a way of stripping illusions. It reveals what you really trust. It reveals what you worship. It reveals what you believe about God when you don't get what you want. Your pain is not a footnote. It is the foundation of the testimony that will set others free. Because people don't just need your gifting, they need your survived places. They need your faith with scars on it. They need the kind of hope that has been tested by disappointment and still chooses God. The very thing you've been ashamed of is the thing that will make what God does through you undeniable. He is going to take what you thought disqualified you and turn it into the evidence that He qualifies. He is going to turn wounds into wisdom, ashes into beauty, and mourning into oil of joy. Not in a shallow way, in a way that makes it clear only God could have done it. And here's the part you didn't expect. The thing that's been blocking you isn't the enemy. It isn't your past. It isn't even the people who hurt you. It's your own timeline. The calendar you've been holding up to God as if heaven should obey it. The deadlines you created based on comparison. The age you thought you'd be when it happened. The schedule you borrowed from someone else's testimony. You've been measuring divine movement by human calendars. You've been assigning meaning to seasons based on how long they've lasted. When in the economy of heaven, timing is not chronological, it is covenantal. God doesn't rush because you're uncomfortable. God doesn't delay because He's cruel. God moves when the time is fulfilled. Scripture says, "When the fullness of time had come, God sent forth His Son." Fullness of time means conditions were met. It means alignment. It means readiness. It means the stage was set in ways only heaven could see. God doesn't move when enough time has passed. God moves when enough has been formed. When your character can carry it. When your discernment can guard it. When your heart can steward it. When you can be trusted with influence without becoming addicted to it. When you can receive blessing without losing your dependence on God. And what is being formed in you right now, the endurance, the depth, the unshakable knowing that has grown in the dark, is the very substance that will sustain everything that's about to break open in your life. Because sudden elevation is real, but sustained elevation is rarer. Many can handle a moment. Few can handle a mantle. And God is not preparing you for a headline. He's preparing you for longevity. He's preparing you to be the kind of person who can stand in answered prayer and still bow in humility. Because this is the final truth. You were never forgotten. You were being finished. You were being completed. You were being tempered like steel, refined like gold, shaped like an arrow in the quiver before it's released. You were being taught to hear God's voice without needing constant confirmation. You were being taught to walk by faith and not by sight. You were being taught that hidden seasons are not wasted seasons, and the God who started this work in you is not a God who abandons unfinished things. He is a God who completes. He is a God who keeps covenant even when you're tired. He is a God who remembers what He promised even when you've had nights where you couldn't. The completion is closer than your pain is telling you. The completion is closer than your logic is allowing you to believe. Because pain speaks in the language of immediacy. Logic speaks in the language of probability. But God speaks in the language of promise. The evidence is already moving in realms you cannot yet see. Things are aligning. Conversations are happening you're not in the room for. Protection is taking place you didn't even know you needed. Doors are being held, and traps are being removed, and timing is being arranged with precision. And what is coming for your life will make everyone who watched you wait understand finally why it had to take this long. They will understand why you couldn't go sooner, why you couldn't build it with those people, why you couldn't stay in that environment, why you had to be separated, why you had to be hidden. Because if they had met you too early, they would have met a version of you that could be manipulated. But now they are about to meet someone anchored, someone clear, someone free, someone who doesn't need approval to obey, someone who can love without losing boundaries, someone who can shine without begging for permission. Place your hand on your heart right now and declare this with me. Let these words not be mere sentences, but spiritual agreements. Let them be the breaking of old contracts, the tearing of invisible papers the enemy has tried to get you to sign with your thoughts. Let your mouth speak what your spirit has been trying to remember. I release the agreement with unworthiness. I release the lie that I was forgotten. I release the reduced version of myself that I constructed to survive the silence. I am not behind. I am not disqualified. I am not overlooked. I am being formed, and I am being finished, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. My pain has a purpose. My waiting has been sacred. My story is not over, it is arriving. I step into this moment not as someone who barely made it, but as someone who was always chosen, always seen, and always known by a God who does not forget what he starts. My breakthrough is not coming, it is already here, and I receive it now in full. Let that settle into your bones. Let it confront the inner critic that has been using time as evidence against you. Let it silence the voice that keeps saying, maybe it's too late. Let it break the habit of self-erasure, because the version of you that is emerging is not an accident. It is the result of divine craftsmanship. And even now, as you speak, you are repositioning your perception. You are taking your power back from delay. You are refusing to let silence define you. If this message reached something in you that needed to be awakened, don't let it pass quietly. Drop the word chosen in the comments below. Let the other souls watching know they are not alone in this. And share this with someone who is in the waiting right now, someone who needs to hear that what feels like silence is not the end. It is the sound of something extraordinary being prepared.